Right, is everybody ready to go? Okay, so fuck it. So with me is Bryan Dressel. With me as always, Jonathan Hardesty.
I really wish
Emily Blake.
Butts.
Chewie.
Hi.
I just wanted to get it done and out of the way as fast as possible. Yeah, that was the whole point.
Stopping and talking about it's helping.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking it up. All right, the special guest today is Sam Garrison. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
And then we have a new guest, has never been on before, director of episodes of Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go. We have Brian Newton.
Hello.
With the most mellow hello out of the whole gang.
I'm nonplussed.
He's playing it cool. He's got his goggles on and he's lightly stroking his beard.
Why are you outing me?
No, you're playing it real cool.
And nothing makes somebody feel more cool than being called out for playing it cool.
I know. It's supportive. I'm
supportive calling
describing
out.
how you look.
He has goggles on his head. They're cool.
Also, this is an audio podcast, so the listeners do need some heads up.
Visual.
They need to know about the goggles. That's the first thing I said when I saw them. I was like, nice apocalypse
Yeah,
goggles.
because the goggles are going to come into play.
They really are.
I feel like goggles is too generic, though. What if it's like Minion goggles on his head?
Oh, they're not Minion goggles.
Yeah. I'll just be topical. It's burning outside. It's a
That's
fucking
true.
hellscape, so that's why I have goggles.
We are recording from a location that was almost on fire last night.
They just making me think of the
Ashes
Book of
raining from
Eli
sky.
now, where they all had to wear goggles.
Yeah.
Too bad that was a bad movie.
Yeah,
It was.
a bad movie.
Still don't understand the ending.
Now we have Dark Tower, so I wonder which
I haven't
is worse.
seen Dark
I haven't
Tower.
either, but I want to compare them.
That's interesting.
That'd be a
I
great,
did want to do that too.
A great double feature.
Which one's worse?
Yeah.
Well, does Idris Elba end up being blind for no real reason?
Wait,
What movie
you mean Denzel Washington?
But Idris Elba being blind in Dark Tower.
Are you talking
Is
about Book
he?
of Eli?
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
I have no idea.
I've never seen it.
Which one?
I'm just going on with the hate
You're
train.
talking about Book of Eli?
I don't like that movie. That movie's bad.
That was the best
You're,
negative face.
So wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't mean
That
this in a
movie's
Battleship
bad.
way. I mean that movie's legitimately good. Oh man.
What do you
guys,
mean
this
Battleship is not
All right,
legitimately
that's going to be
good?
another.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
You two can enjoy your bad movie love of those.
Wait. No, Book of Eli is a good fucking movie.
I just wanted to
Fuck all
join
y'all.
that.
I will fight
It's
you.
not terrible.
Oh man.
It's just not great.
You're so wrong.
I actively got upset while watching it and be like, this is terrible. I did not.
You're terrible.
I did not enjoy Book of Eli.
Good comeback.
I know. I'm
Hi.
good at comebacks.
Let's do Where Have You Been Doing? You guys ready for Where Have You Been Doing?
Oh shit.
I will go first. I watched The Defenders, and it is real okay.
That's real. That's really all right.
Yeah, it is
that's
sure
accurate.
fine.
It's a show on Netflix.
It has 8 episodes. Most of them are pretty good. Some of them are not, and then it's over.
Yep.
And they end in the exact same place they started in the beginning of the show, and it annoys the crap out
They
of
had
me.
a good
yeah.
advertising campaign where they looked like they were in a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Those
which
band photos were awesome.
Guardians did as well.
They did.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Marvel thing now. All the team-up shows get band
They're
posters.
cool.
I did
Yeah,
really.
those
There
are
were a
good.
couple really cool editing moments.
Oh yeah,
though.
there's some really good stuff in there, but just as a whole,
Really, the middle. The middle's
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
chunk of it.
Yeah, that scene where Iron Fist is about to get his ass beat and Luke Cage busts in. First of all, that looked cool, and the whole fight scene was cool, but also the music cue.
yeah.
It's like you start hearing the hip hop, and you're like, "Oh, here he comes! Here he comes!"
Did you guys notice how, like you were mentioning the editing before, how like each tonally, when you cut to one of the defenders, the color code coincided with them, and then like all the Luke Cage sequences had musical sequence that kind of coincide with Luke Cage. Yeah.
See, now that's cool. I'll actually watch that because of this.
It's totally worth your time. It's not a bad show. It's just I had expected the amount of joy. I don't know why I was holding it this high up, but the amount of joy that I got from the first time I saw the Avengers were like, oh, all these things came together and it was so great.
It's not that.
And it's not that.
Do you
It's
think it's
just
because we're oversaturated?
No.
no.
It,
It's just,
it could have been better.
Yeah,
it
just-
had the potential.
it's that they didn't really do very well with their villain. They really did not let her do anything, and she really kind of felt out of place. And I just
And you're saying they kind of status quoted at the end?
totally
Yeah.
like
Here's a comment I have that no one else has ever pointed out, at least any review I've read. You notice on the first Daredevil season, they drew a lot from the Daredevil like mythos. Like they had the Owl, they had like the Machinist dude, like either like side characters they just kind of toss in there just for the fans. There's none of that in the Defenders. They just create characters out of whole cloth. I'm like, why don't you go through the Marvel library and pick someone you can use?
Yeah, I mean,
to
it's not-
represent like the characters, the hand or whatever.
I honestly would have been
It's
okay
weird.
with them being like versus Fisk. Like that would have been a better villain.
I was hoping he was coming back.
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, it's not. It's definitely
I'm still
not a
wondering
bad
why
show.
a white lady ended up being the head of the hand.
Yeah, that's really weird
They
too.
they do kind of explain it. It's
They do.
it's
I haven't
the
watched
hand's
it
like
yet. So.
spoiler alert. The hand's diverse. So there's
Is what?
the hand's diverse. It's like there's an African dude, there's a white woman.
Oh,
there's
see,
a
all I knew of the hands, I thought it was
Japanese.
specifically an Asian thing.
It should be in the comics, but they decide to diversify a little
Oh.
bit. Yeah.
So you're saying they didn't learn from season 2 of Daredevil?
No, but it's like I said, it's a good show. It is
Yeah.
definitely worth your time. But like the reviews that give it like 6, 7 out of 10, I kind of agree with those.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the worst things about it are all the things it drew from Iron Fist.
yeah, which is sadly a lot.
How
but-
much do I have to catch up on these Marvel shows to watch it?
Just skip Iron Fist.
Yeah,
It'll
you
be
could,
all
well, I would watch like the last like 3 episodes of Iron Fist, so you kind of see where he was at the end of the show.
first and last. I would
Yeah,
say.
okay, first and last, that would work. So you know who he is and you know where he ended up.
Okay.
Because there is something that happens at the end of Iron Fist that really plays a major point in the show.
Okay.
It's
But
just
otherwise,
so
skip the
funny.
whole fucking thing.
Okay.
It's like meeting a person and be like, all right, so I need to know your beginning and your end, but all of your content is terrible, so I don't really want to know much
Yeah.
about you.
Forget your middle.
But
I will say,
Your
I
personality
watched,
is shit.
kind of
I
Danny Rand
I
character.
watched everything else, but I also watched like the first half of Iron Fist and lost interest, and I still had no trouble following.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't see the last
They
episode.
do a pretty good job. Like the first episode, they do a pretty good job of catch up on. If you skipped like Luke Cage or Iron Fist, like they kind of tell you who they are and where they're at.
Why would you skip Luke Cage?
Yeah, Luke Cage is fucking great. I still am a little annoyed. That,
I
was just,
couldn't finish it because I loved him so much in Jessica Jones, and he felt like a different character when
Oh,
I
definitely.
started Luke Cage, and I didn't like him as much.
Luke Cage was the series was played more for comedy because that's kind of the tone of the original Luke Cage comics.
Okay.
Where it's very much tongue in cheek because they're playing off blaxploitation, so they made a blaxploitation television series.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
just-
why
I-
it's a different. It feels like a different character
I
because
just
Jessica
wish-
Jones
sorry,
isn't
go
that. Sorry, my fault.
no, I wish Mahershala was in the whole series.
Yeah.
I
'Cause he was
generally
so
feel that way
good.
about
You have
him
a
and
man crush
everything,
on
though.
him.
I have such a man crush on
Amazing.
him. Like
He's
it's if he walked through the door, our marriage would be in trouble.
Like, Mahershala, get out of here.
He's like, shoo him out. We got a
It's
broom.
like, Brian's just a puddle on the floor now.
He's great. What can I say? That's it for me, though. If somebody else wants to go.
I finally finished Doctor Who. I caught up. And for a while, I was just lagging, going, the season is boring, the season's boring. Oh, it got interesting again. Yes, thank you. It ended on a high note. Oh, you totally muffeted the ending. Okay, fine. All right, potentiality of tragedy and drama. Oh, everything's fine. Moffat.
Is it the new Doctor yet? Has she started?
No, That starts at Christmas.
That's
Okay.
after the Christmas episode.
Got it.
Probably see her like right at the end of the
Yeah.
episode would be my guess.
But it's so annoying once you really start caring about a companion. You get attached to them finally, wondering, like, when are you really going to let this girl shine? And then you get to the end of the show, and then you're like, all right.
Yep. No one beats Dr. Donna though.
No, Donna's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm a Rose. Donna's great. I'm a Rose person.
I like Rose
Rose
too.
is great, yeah.
Rose is a ride or die chick.
But
I like Rose.
Donna is the greatest example of you really made me love a companion. And even though her ending is tragic, by holding on to the tragedy, you make her even more special. And that's the problem I've had with Moffat the last 3 years. Every time he hits the tragedy moment, he really makes you feel things. And then he goes, sorry, no, it's all good. Everyone's happy.
Because Moffat is so plot driven. He's so like the character, the companions don't exist to be people. They exist to be plot devices for him more often than not. And I think that's what's causing that problem is that he doesn't know how to make that about the characters.
Just
It's always
hold
about
on to the
story.
tragedy.
I will say, I think he gave Maisie Williams legit tragedy and didn't backpedal on it in season 9.
Her story
yeah,
was
yeah.
so sad.
Yeah.
Her story was sad, but
Yeah.
she still ended up fine.
She still ended up fine, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was that she was alone the whole time, and like that, he didn't do it in a way that felt like cheap. He gave her an actual companion. Like it, that story actually played out the way that I feel it should have. It didn't ever pull a punch, in my opinion.
Clara still ended up fine,
I-
even
I-
though
I
she
know-
had a great tragedy lined up.
I didn't
and-
say Clara. I said Maisie Williams.
Yeah, Maisie Williams.
Do you have anything else to say on Doctor Who? Should we move on?
Well, you haven't finished it, so I don't want to say much else.
I appreciate that.
I will go.
Go for it.
Okay, I watched this amazing documentary on Netflix called Icarus about steroids and Russians and government conspiracy. It was insane. Like, it started off just being about this dude who wanted to win a bike race, and so he started taking steroids just to kind of experiment and see how he could compete. And so he found someone to help him get around the tests in the way that everyone is kind of getting around these steroid tests now. And it unveiled this, and it was this Russian doctor, and it turned into this whole crazy conspiracy. Like, it started off as being, I thought it was just gonna be like a standard, like, this is steroids, I'm a buff dude now. But it went to this crazy place where, like, you're literally dealing with the Russian government killing people. And and it was amazing. Like, it was such a journey. It was so cool. Everyone was like, it was really well put together, really well made. They used some animation elements for parts of the story. The editing was wonderful, and the people that they chose to focus on, granted, one of the guys was the director, but everyone was like charming, and you wanted to follow their story. So I don't know, it was one of the best documentaries I've seen in a really long time.
It was on Netflix, you said?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Icarus.
I think I've heard of it.
Also, lots of butts, because it's about a bicyclist
Hooray
race.
for butts!
We like butts. This is a pro butt podcast.
Next.
I'll go. I've been watching season 2 of Adam Ruins Everything, which, if you don't know Adam Ruins Everything, it is probably the greatest show that has ever been made in the history of the world. It's
Drunk History. Thank you very much.
Well, okay, Drunk History. A double feature of episodes of Drunk History with Adam Ruins Everything.
They're pretty good together.
Would be great, yeah. Adam Ruins Everything. Adam Conover is a comedian, but his family is all a bunch of fucking geniuses, and so he grew up hearing facts a lot. So basically, he has a show where he smashes through commonly held misconceptions, like about the hymen being broken. That was my favorite episode. About like how we think we have like. No, that's a bad example because that doesn't really make any sense. But this season he did like hospitals and why insurance costs are so high, why pills cost $1 bazillion, why like just all these cool things about like just different things that you think you knew all this time, and he'll be like, actually, he's actually the greatest mansplainer ever. But because he sounds like, but he really knows. I mean, his team does a bunch of research, and in this most recent episode, they ruined their own show.
Oh yeah, I saw that little
and that
clip.
was so great. Like one of the people Adam is always explaining things to came on and was like, actually, Adam, you fucked up this and this and this and this, and they pointed out all the mistakes they've made on the show and the times they've
That's
been
kinda
wrong,
awesome.
which
Good.
was so great. I just God, I love that show. Every time I see there's a new one, I'm like, yes, ruin something for me, Adam, ruin something. It's great.
Do you listen to his podcast?
No.
It's called Adam Ruins Everything.
Interesting.
It's he actually in his podcast in like the first episode he's like, if you like my show, you should definitely listen to this because my show I get 5 minutes to ruin something. Here I'm going to take a whole hour and spend it all on one topic. So he like the one that I listened to was all about prostitution in the Old West, and it was fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
It's how women took control of their lives.
Yeah, he did that on the cowboy episode,
Yeah,
episode about the
that's-
Old
yeah.
West, where he talked about how cowboys aren't what you think.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he
Cowboys
brings
are
in the-
actually very sad.
Yeah.
Kind of like slaves. Like,
Yeah.
get out there and be terrible.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love his recent breakdown of the art world because it's something I've been saying for years. Having gone through art school, I've always been saying fine art is a scam. It's just a marketing ploy. Basically, you go to art school and you come out of that and they tell you how to bullshit. Modern art specifically. Like, if you have a practical skill, like a communication, toy, fashion, whatever, those are practical skills you can take out and apply and work for somebody. When it's just like, oh, I'm the next auteur. I'm going to play in all the galleries. I throw fucking feces on the wall. And I call it, and I'm saying this is my postmodern expressionistic about the capitalistic influences on the female body. I'm like, no, you're not saying anything. You can do that piece, but it has to communicate. And my biggest problem with like fine art is that art.
He just adjusted himself in his chair for a visual.
Yeah. Like art, at least effective art's supposed to communicate, and ideally, if it communicates to more people, that means you're better at communicating. It's a better art piece. But if you're only talking to specific people who only have the little like secret code to decipher your little thing, you're not communicating.
But
it's
I have
not
a
good
decoder
art.
ring. What am I supposed to do with my decoder ring?
Like, oh, you gotta find it out. Well, it's like, well, where's the fucking legend
my
where I can
God.
tell how am I supposed to decode your little thing?
Well, you know,
Go on
What
the
if
scavenger
somebody-
hunt.
What if somebody made a puzzle video game about decrypting the meanings of fine art?
I feel
Like
that's
you have
kind
to
of
walk
in the
into a
witness
gallery.
already.
yeah, that is The Witness.
I
quit playing that
I don't
game.
know that game.
because it got too frustrating. It's like, how many spheres do I have to find and do this dumb shit?
Yeah,
But really smart shit. It's a really challenging.
But I love Adam, and I love the show for breaking down the art scene, especially how it's just a racket for rich people. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're running low on our. We
I
haven't been doing
actually-
time. Who's going next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Quickly, I just started watching a series on Disney XD called Waypoint Presents. It's kind of an offshoot of the podcast I listen to, Waypoint Radio.
Oh, that's a good show.
And it's a documentary video series about various aspects of gaming. And in the first episode, they did a kind of a docu episode on the guy who created Hyperlight Drifter. And so he's got this like rare heart condition, so he could like die at any time. And so that bled into the story of the game, where the character has a limited amount of time to live. And it was very interesting, kind of watching them do their own kind of crunch in their like the small studio in LA somewhere, and just kind of hitting that deadline, that release, and just like, oh, we got this is gonna take 12 hours to upload. We're late, like that kind of thing. It goes through all that in a really quick span of time. And it was really fascinating. And it's on Disney XD, which they've been kind of focusing on gaming a lot more now.
It's extreme.
Yeah. But it's really well done. Really well done.
I'm glad I supported that Kickstarter then. I didn't know that about the dude.
Brian, do you have one?
I'm super sweaty, which I wish I didn't notice that. But I saw Terminator 2 in 3D this weekend. I had seen it before, but they're doing like a special like anniversary thing, so they released it in theaters. And I saw La Puta, also known as Castle in the Sky, the Miyazaki movie. They've also been doing a Miyazaki festival recently, so
That's pretty cool.
just saw a bunch of movies.
Say, I saw Terminator 2 last Friday. I'm going again tomorrow.
Yeah, that movie still holds up. It's one
Would
of the
you
best
say it's your
films.
favorite movie?
I would.
Yeah.
That's a little strong for me, but it's
Yeah,
up
me
there.
too.
The 3D is
We've had
amazing,
this
though.
Yeah. Two people at the table are right.
You said the 3D what?
The 3D is amazing,
Oh, is
and
it?
yeah, it's really cool.
I still don't see 3D.
No,
But,
you don't.
but I bought my own glasses, which you can do if you didn't know. You can go on Amazon and buy your own 3D glasses that clip onto yours, so you don't have to wear those big fucking hulking ones over your glasses.
Yeah,
So I just bought those. They should show up today.
because they don't really fit over James Gunn's glasses.
No, these are my glasses. They just happen to be the same as James Gunn. We don't need to just make me feel not
It's
special.
just fun watching the
feels like a
behind the
good
scenes thing and be like,
transition.
oh, James Gunn looks like my husband.
Yeah, we do have the same glasses. When I found out when I talked to the guy who made them, he's like, "Oh, you're wearing the same frames as James Gunn." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool," but now I don't feel special.
Speaking of James Gunn,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So today, if you didn't notice when you downloaded the episode, we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
A lot of people are surprised now.
Yeah.
listening.
Wait, what am I listening to?
I didn't read anything you guys posted.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. I used to like to hide the name of the episode until the very end, and then I found out that really stopped people from downloading the episodes.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, Brian, are you sure this is not just you being clever for yourself and the internet doesn't care?
Yeah, it was 100% that. But I was having fun. So as we do, we're going to start with a 30-second breakdown. Brian, this is all you this week. Are you excited?
Yes.
I love the timid yeses we get now. We used to get like the, yeah, I can do it. Now I get the, I guess. I'm not horribly excited about it.
So I'm going to be breaking down the basic synopsis of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah, you get 30 seconds to say everything that happens in the movie. Spoilers are encouraged, because otherwise you're not saying everything that happens in the movie.
Okay.
Anything else?
Be quick.
Be quick,
be
yeah.
quick.
Yeah, being quick is very important. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2, in 30 seconds. Here we go, 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 go!
Okay, so we pick up almost where our heroes left off. Rocket's being a dick, and he steals some batteries from the gold people, who are amazing. And then they crash land on a planet kind of like video game style, or maybe Star Trek Generation style. And then they get picked up by, what's his face? Snake Plissken. And they get taken to Snake's magical homeland, which is fucking amazing. I bought the art book for his planet for that reason. With his little like, I was about to say his Asian concubine.
Oh,
It's true.
I'm just imagining her frowning right now with her antenna going
Yes,
down.
sad.
Well, you failed at the breakdown, but it was very entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, that's it? Okay.
That's it.
Oh, well.
It's worth it for the ancient
Yeah.
concubine.
She's also French, Canadian, Russian.
Yes,
If you
yes.
look her up,
She's
she's got a lot going on.
She's all the things.
Yeah,
She's also an insect.
kind of, in
She
a
was
way.
a larva.
Yeah.
He found her in her what's that state? The
Larva?
pupil.
Pupae.
I can't say it. Pupae. Yeah. The word I have a hard time saying now. Okay.
Oh, and Yondu is awesome. That's also important.
That's also very important. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing that wasn't in there, just as we talk spoilers for the whole thing, is Guardians win. There we go.
They saved the galaxy.
There's a lot
again.
that wasn't in there, but
I didn't get the fact that Snake was fucking Star-Lord's father.
Oh yeah, that's also
this is
important.
the whole movie.
That was, yeah, I was about to get there.
Yeah,
It's okay.
you got caught up in the Asian concubine.
Yeah,
Who is not Star-Lord's mother, we should clarify.
Yeah.
No.
it's true. Well, we know who his mom is. We got
Yeah.
tipped on that.
I mean, if you're watching this episode and you haven't seen the movie, I mean, or watching this episode. If you're watching this episode, that's amazing, first of all.
Yeah, tell us how
I'm
you're doing
impressed.
that. Tell us how you're doing that, please.
With those people with that condition where they can see color.
Yeah, there you go.
I wonder what I would look like with
I can
my
see
voice.
podcasts.
The worst way of using
mutant
synesthesia.
power.
That is
I'm in the
deep.
X-Men. Oh, what can you do? I can see podcasts.
Oh, don't get them started. That'll be like the next generation, new generation.
I think it's really cool when people say that they can hear, when they hear things, they see things. I think that it's not just acid.
Acid might have something to do with it.
No, it's a real condition.
All right, where do we want to start on this thing? Who wants to dive in first? There's a lot to talk about.
Just start with the beginning, really. The
very
opening,
beginning.
The opening scene.
Is it the
About
very best place to
music.
start?
It's a great opening song, again.
The music's really. I think the music's better in this one than
Yeah.
the first one.
I think the standalone
don't.
songs were better in the first one, but I think it plays to the tone of the movie better.
Here's my trick to that. They got basically the first movie went for the songs you expect to hear.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think this one's better because they went for the songs you didn't expect to hear.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they wrote a lot of this movie around around Brandy.
Yeah. Oh,
That
totally.
Was, it was intricately worked into the plot.
Which was great until they went, if you haven't caught on yet, this is what we're doing.
That was the problem for me, and it was kind of an indictment of the whole movie. It felt like they took the things that worked about the first one and just cranked it. I'm sorry.
There we are. You really have to point your
Sorry.
face at these things.
Yeah. So they took the things that worked about the first one and just cranked it up to the point where it was too much. I felt like everything was too on the nose. The music cues weren't fun because it just felt like they were dragging me along through this movie and oh my god, have fun, look at it, it's period themed, and I'm just like, god, stop. Like,
See, I liked as far as the music goes in that, I liked that music, especially like the way it starts with Blue Sky, like that.
oh, that's like the best song ever. Like,
Well, yeah, it's such a great song, and like the fact that James Gunn did the mocap for Groot, like that was adorable.
Yeah.
I love watching the video of James Gunn dancing because it's almost more adorable than watching Baby Groot do it.
They had the
that's
same
the
hair.
problem though.
Yeah.
This was the James Gunn show. I was
bitching about that earlier.
I know.
James
I got
Gunn.
2 tickets to that show.
Ryan is
Have
flexing
you met
his
James
guns.
and Gunn?
Yes, Ryan.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I got you.
I have no guns to flex. It's definitely the other one.
But I liked how they used the chain and the Fleetwood Mac song.
Yeah.
Like they used it when the team was all broken up and mad at each other. And then it came back at the end when they were a team
Yeah.
and uniting. So that song has dual meaning in that movie, which is really pretty cool.
That's the
it's
best
a great song
That
anyway.
was the best song.
Yeah.
Songs.
So great.
Yeah,
We're-
yeah. I was gonna try to say something bad about the songs, but beyond what Sam said, like, but I get what Sam's saying about like
Well,
the
these are
songs
not
definitely.
bad songs. Or
They're
they
not
wouldn't
bad
be in
songs.
this movie. Like,
But-
I'm not.
But they do if you're not the movie with the songs. The movie kind of says it doesn't have full faith in its audience, and I think that's kind of the biggest problem with it.
It also is aware that this isn't a risk anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it has, there's a confidence to it, but it's also like it does feel, it's like you're saying, like, okay, this is the Guardians of the Galaxy thing we're gonna do now.
They're
It
not
was
earning
a-
our attention as
It
much
was
as they did in the
it was
first
a
one.
victory lap.
Yeah.
Victory lap.
I think, and that's when they're, I guess, playing it safe because the first movie's a risk. It's a super
Yeah.
risk, and this one's like, well, we can't take another risk with a risk, so I think
Yeah.
that's their reasoning.
And beyond the needle drops, one thing I thought was cool is that they scored the movie based off the script before they started shooting. So on set, he played the score for that scene, so the actors would already hear like the music that was playing. And that was pretty cool. It helped everybody get into character a little better, I think.
It's nice when you have the budget to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you have Marvel money, you can be like, these are the songs we're using. What about clearances? Oh no, we'll
No,
get them.
I don't mean
worry
the
about
needle
it.
drops. I mean the score.
Oh, just the score
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's also really nice.
and yeah, the scene that definitely I want to say reeks, but I'm not suggesting anything negative by is when Yondu and Rocket break out of the Ravengers. Like you can just feel like they're listening to that song.
I feel like
forget the
that,
name
yeah,
of it.
and I feel like that whole scene deserves an entire conversation because I mean, God, that scene, you guys.
I wish we
Well,
could talk
here's
about
the-
it in
no.
a platform.
Well, let's do it. Here's the thing: is like that scene. I think is, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's where Rocket and Yondu break out of their the Ravager holdings and they kill everyone.
And Yondu gets his fin.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
But that movie that scene comes with a lot of like people on both ends of the spectrum, because before that scene, Marvel movies have played it kind of safe with the mass murdering. Like they beat up bad guys and they all lie on the ground going, "Ow, my ribs!" They're all fucking dead.
Yeah.
They kill the shit out of everyone.
It's like
I know Chewie had a bigger problem than I did. I enjoyed watching them all die because it was fun.
I'm conflicted on it because I do really enjoy that sequence. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it just hits a tipping point for me. Once they get into like the command center where they can see all of the screens, and then the music picks up, and then they all start laughing, and then there's just a moment where I'm like, you're all just slaughtering these men.
Yeah, they're psychopaths.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
watching
I'm like-
a movie about asshole sociopaths.
Like for a moment, I'm not on their side. I'm like, I know they're bad. I know you're killing bad people, but you always reach a point where just because you're killing bad people doesn't mean it's a good thing. Like they're just.
You've clearly never played Grand Theft Auto.
Or read The Punisher.
I mean, I still love their characters and everything. It's just in that moment they lost me for just a moment where I'm like, maybe you don't need to kill all of
That's
them.
maybe why these two people need the other people.
Yeah.
Because without them, they're just maybe that's why Rocket hangs out with Groot so much. Is Groot is the heart.
Yeah.
That Rocket's so like.
they're not just-
But in the first movie, Groot kills way more people than Rocket does.
Yeah, that's true.
Groot also kills people in this scene
Oh,
as,
yeah,
as a
couple.
wee baby toddler. Like, this is another. I liked the scene. It's a really cool scene.
It is.
But it's
Fucking
not
great.
a Guardians of the Galaxy movie scene. You have your biggest psychopaths. Yondu's not even a Guardian. Like, they shortchanged. No. They shortchanged real
He was an
Guardian
original
story.
Guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but not in the universe that they've established, right? Like, I don't read these comic books. I walk in
do
as
I.
a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I want to see the characters that they'd established in the first movie. I want to see those stories develop. And instead, it's the Yondu show. And I really like Yondu. I love Michael Rooker. Give him all the roles. Give him these cool scenes. But, like, establish it so that I'm not getting shortchanged on, like, Gamora's story. I don't need Drax to be a point of comedy. There's a lot of pathos there, and I'm not seeing any of that. He's the destroyer. He gets 0 kills in this movie. Instead, it's the Yondu show with Baby Groot just
even-
cuting it
even-
up.
Not
and it's
according to
all-
him, though. He got one big kill in the beginning.
Yeah.
But even then, that's played for comedy against him.
Yeah, and
love
that's
Drax.
it's just like everything about this movie is it's like every scene is good, but it doesn't go together. It's like having like a stout with a salad niçoise. Like I love both of those things.
You're so
but
California.
Fuck me together. It's horrible. Like I can't, and that's how I feel about like everything about this movie is like good stuff, but it's all wrong. Sorry.
The one thing that comes through is
that's-
sorry.
Yeah. Blah. No, but yeah, everything is very frustratingly like good in individual pieces, but I guess it just doesn't work together. Like this on paper, this should be my favorite movie. It's like cool ass music, Kurt Russell and his beautiful hair,
Oh,
this
such
awesome
beautiful
scene
hair.
where people finally get fucking slaughtered, and then
There's
I
still
feel-
no real blood.
I feel nothing.
Well, there's never going to be. It's
I know.
PG-13.
I mean, my disagreement with that is it being the Yondu show is one, the Guardians changed. Like in the comic, they do. I know you're talking about this as its own individual thing, but like Guardians of the Galaxy, these characters were chosen from among many characters, and you can add people or take away as need be. But also, this is very much a thematic film. Like it's all coherently about family.
Except that they shortchanged the actual biological family with an awesome storyline
But
in
I
favor
think-
of a fake family. Like
No.
they
Well,
still had
well,
not a
no,
fake, not a fake family, but like Yondu's not his dad. Yondu abused this
Oh,
kid his
I
whole
beg
life.
to disagree.
Yeah,
with
No,
that.
no, he's an abusive father. That's like
Yeah,
saying the
and
Dursleys
so are a lot of
very
biological
honest.
fathers.
Yeah.
A lot of biological
I
fathers
gotta-
are also
I'm gonna get
abusive.
personal as someone who this past year lost my biological family because they're a bunch of fucking assholes. I don't want anything to do with them. I've built my own family of people around me. So I felt like this movie was very relatable. Yondu is more of a father than his real father, and I feel that way about the people that I put in my life as well, because I feel like that blood is thicker than water
Yep.
is frequently wrong.
That's
Yep,
not what I'm
totally.
talking about, though. I'm talking about that Star-Lord had no good options, and we forgive Yondu for, like, literally just, like, psychologically torturing a child for his whole life because somehow that's preferable to death. And we reward him,
Well,
and then we take this actual
Keep in
storyline
mind,
about sisters.
Star-Lord was really good. He was really small and was really good at fitting into tight spaces and stealing.
And he was
things,
good.
so he was
That-
useful.
but that can speak to some of the issue with it is that
it's like
because this is
this
a
movie
James
wants
Gunn
to have
thing,
its cake and eat it too. Like it just
there's kind of a humor to it that plays against kind of what that's going for. Like I didn't have nearly as much of a problem with that just because I didn't, but at the same time I can see where you're coming from. It's just like he's undercutting it in subtle ways, like the comedic elements. It's like, oh, you can fit in small spaces, and I'm Mary Poppins, all great lines, but they're masking what would have been a really interesting
it
kind of
feels
dealing
like
with Yondu's treatment of Star-Lord. Like,
so wait a minute.
but we don't spend enough time with
How-
that.
it pulls
then
all
how
of
do-
its punches.
How do you
whenever it
feel
can
about
get
the
good.
scene between Rocket and Yondu? Both when they're on the ship and also when they escape. There's a really like intense moment where like Yondu's calling Rocket out on his like bullshit about like you just want to hurt people because you've been hurt so much and you're pushing people away just so you can say, see, you never liked me in the first place.
Though that their relationship for me was the strongest in the
Right.
film
But
because
that's
it was coming
that's
from
what the
an honest
entire
place of
film's
two.
about.
But no one else got that moment. Like it's coming from
They
this place of these two people are
Didn't
actually
they?
no.
I got
These
it.
two people are actually forced to confront.
But what about
the
like
horrible things
Nebula
they've
and
done.
Gamora? That's their whole conflict too. They keep pushing
But
each
what
other away.
we
through-
never see it. We see it in one fight scene, and these are like central characters
that's-
of the
but
film.
it was-
Yondu
that's
and
what we
Rocket
saw
got
it,
what,
though.
like 3 scenes. It's just like I don't know. I guess I just like have a harder time caring when like they establish these other characters in the first film as like being so much
Well,
more
and then what do you think
important.
about then them kind of like
Because even
basically
Star-Lord's relationship with both of his dads felt shortchanged in favor of the Yondu and Rocket adventures.
Well,
you know?
when I first saw this movie, Yondu's death, I was like, oh, that's a huge bummer. But then as I watched it again, I'm like, but it's kind of a cop out for him and Star-Lord's thing, like because there's unresolved things there. And it's like that conversation between that great conversation between Yondu and Rocket was so great, but like Rocket's not the
Star-Lord-
main. He's not the
Yep,
main
but-
character. And
Yeah.
I also want to point out that the entire movie franchise, to this point, I mean, we only have 2, is about loss. I mean, the first scene in the first movie, he loses his mother without like resolution or anything. He gets sucked up into space. Then he loses one of his dads, and then he loses another dad. It's all about loss and kind of like there's not going to be any like simple, clean resolutions because that's not how life is.
And honestly, we don't need more exposition.
Yeah,
Just to
that's-
move it
no, I
into
mean
one
that's not
problem
where,
that
that's
I...
not where. I mean, it's maybe just not undercutting it with humor. There's a point where it's too much.
Seen the first movie? Like, I mean,
But there's this
But
thing, like there was that video that went around on Facebook, I'm sure everybody here saw it, where they bitch about the Marvel movies undercutting everything with humor. And I think there's movies that do it that deserve, damnation, like the Doctor Strange is like horrible about this. This movie, I mean, that is Guardians. Like I know not everyone here reads the comics, but like I've read almost every one of the major plot lines. I've read it all the way up until Grounded. Like I've read a lot of Guardians. This isn't a new thing for them. Like this is what they do. Like they have their very serious moments and they always have a moment of comedy. The first time that Star-Lord and Nova take on Thanos, they fight him in an undead planet, and whenever they die, they come back naked. So it's this horrible, like dramatic fight, and they die and they come back like, oh my god, where are my clothes? Like, well, the clothes don't come back to life. You do. So then they have to fight Thanos buck-ass naked, and it's hilarious, but it's also very serious, and like that is what Guardians do, and they do it better than anyone else in the Marvel
Well,
universe.
what if some of that boils down to like just not faith that this like all these Marvel movies tend to status quo at the end.
True,
And
but
then like is Star-Lord gonna be dealing with that in the next one?
But-
His 2 dads
but
being
I-
gone. Like,
but I don't even care.
Ideally.
But if they don't, I don't care because that's
Right.
not like we're looking at the wrong. You're looking at the Marvel franchise and talking about Guardians. Where
but
Guardians has
Guardians
done a
also-
very good job of saying we are the Guardians franchise. We are
Right.
not part of the Marvel thing. They
But that's
keep
the
doing
thing
their
is, like,
own thing.
Until
they're promising to
Infinity
be
War, obviously.
more than the other Marvel movies.
They
Like,
never promised that.
the first one.
I think
like,
that
No, they've never promised that. They
Yeah.
just
what
are.
what it comes down to is the difference between undercutting a moment with humor and enhancing. Like the reason the Rocket Yondu scene worked is because Rocket still cracks jokes. He's still cracking wise. Like Baby Groot's still bringing them the wrong materials. It's a very funny scene, but they still managed to incorporate the truth of the moment with the comedy without the comedy detracting or not letting you feel. And I think that's what this is missing. It feels like anytime Star-Lord tries to have a serious moment, they punctuate it with a joke instead of the joke being like a chance for you to breathe before they pick up the pathos.
I think
I was
they're-
trying to keep track.
Everything just felt like it was dragging me along, and then like, oh, this is too intense for you, sweetie. Have a cookie, and it's like I don't want the cookie. Like I want to laugh while I'm crying
except
right now.
One of the biggest complaints about this movie is that the ending is too serious and not funny enough. So
I love the
No,
ending.
that's what I love.
I love the end.
No,
Like, the
I'm not
ending's-
saying I have that complaint. I'm saying that is what you hear. Like, so, I mean, you hear that all the time of people being like, I don't know, it's not funny at the end, it's super serious, and this is supposed to be a funny movie. So, I don't know.
I would slap that person and be like, that's why our movies are getting dumber.
You gotta stop slapping strangers.
No.
Keep slapping, Chewie.
It's a problem with America right now. We
Everyone needs to
elected a dumbass because we thought it was going to be funny.
It's not funny.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
But I was trying to, when I first sat down to watch the movie, I'd watch it in 2 parts this week. I was trying to keep track of the serious moments that were undercut. First one is the battle sequence with the gold people, and it's
Who are awesome.
The Sovereign.
And you think it's a really like serious battle sequence until you realize that they're just playing video games. And then they end up just being the internet where they're rooting the guy on, and they're like, but then he fails, and they're like, you suck.
Who was from
That was a great moment.
Farscape?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I was
lead
going to
guy.
talk about that.
I
was
did
a
not
reference to
recognize
Farscape?
him.
Or is he's from Farscape?
He's
Yeah,
the lead
Ben
actor.
Browder
Yeah.
is the lead in Farscape. So and there's a lot of
That's what he got
there's a
focused
lot of Farscape influence in
Okay.
this version of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I really wish he'd gotten a bigger part because he's amazing and there
I
should
was
be more.
I was wondering why they focused on that character for so
Yeah,
long, and I was
because
like,
that was Ben Browder.
yeah.
There should be he should
But
have a bigger career and he should have had a bigger part.
I just liked how like it was like the internet for a little bit there, where they're rooting him on,
Yeah.
and then he fails, then they all hate
I
him.
thought that was great.
I thought that was personally. I didn't think that was internet. I thought that was Last Starfighter because there's like 3 or 4 Last Starfighter references in there, and that
See, I've
felt
never seen
exactly
that.
like
Yeah.
Last Starfighter.
Yeah, totally.
And by the way,
Even Quill's origin story is Last Starfighter.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then the end of the movie, like when the spaceship does that big spin move and all the lasers fly out and kill everyone.
Yeah.
That's the
Starfire.
end of Last Starfighter. Like there's,
So Farscape and Last Starfighter. I'm sure there's more.
I'm totally sure.
so whether or not these actually are bad cuts to humor or whatnot, leave it up to your opinion, but these are just the ones I was keeping track of. So it's that one. And then when we're on Contraxia, which I think is funny that it's like a hooker planet, like you're going to contract something.
I totally didn't pick up on that.
I was thinking like I thought we were thinking contractually obligated.
No.
to
Yeah,
That's where I was going.
I was like, yeah,
No, I was
contracts. You
thinking
sign
you're going to get an
contracts.
STD, you're going to contract something.
I
But
think you nailed it.
Well, I will never go to that planet.
I'm now imagining all these robot hookers having like a system to flush out STDs.
No, they clearly have malware.
But the serious moment with Yondu getting verbally bitch slapped, essentially, and then it's undercut
By Shy Stallone.
by the girl coming up, and then the roller not working.
Oh, I love that.
It's still funny, but it's a serious moment that's undercut by it. And then now I'm just thinking Snake. Snake saying, "I'm going to explain your special heritage to you."
Ego.
Ego. But then he's like, "And I gotta go take a whiz." Like serious moment. Now he has to.
Okay,
Yeah.
out of all the undercut humor moments, that's the only one I didn't like.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like toilet humor, so.
See, for me, the only one I didn't like was the ego at the end when he does the when he switches into David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff, because that one
That
just,
I enjoyed.
see, I like seeing David Hasselhoff,
It
but
felt
that
like an
But
odd
it was,
beat.
it was
Yeah.
also established though.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
no,
that
it
was-
totally was, but it
That
just,
was
it-
like a perfect manipulative dick move. Like that's where
Yeah.
he showed his true colors.
Yeah,
like
I
really,
agree with that.
Yeah,
But
that
I
was,
just it felt like a comedic jab at the wrong moment. Like I'm fine with there being a David Hasselhoff.
No,
moment,
but see, that's where the comedy plays into the plot. Like it's funny, but that's also like really
In dark,
mean.
in dark, yeah.
yeah,
I did
Yeah.
go like, ouch, as I was watching that movie.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Peter's got not one but 2 mentally abusive fathers. You guys.
I mean, whenever they say anything about people, it all comes back to our parents. So in a way, our parents are all abusive.
Oh, yeah.
Hooray!
I fully agree with that.
I don't know.
Welcome to this.
That's why we
sad
become them in so
podcast.
many ways.
But I
I
do
was
feel
just
like
being mean at that moment. I didn't really mean it.
I do feel like going back. Sorry to cut you off in the middle of your list, but
As we keep doing.
Hey, well, we're getting talking points from my list.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like the difference is Yondu realized he was too hard on Peter and felt bad about it and kind of apologized in his own way at the end. Which I gotta be honest, like if my parents apologized to me, I'd be like, cool, okay, thank you. All right, we can talk now. You know, I mean, all that
The realization of wronging.
realizing you've made a huge mistake. I think that's why Yondu gets to be redeemable. Is he also protects Peter and several times from death, and he realizes he fucked up. And
He
this
did
whole
protect him in the
story
whole
is
first one, too.
Yeah, and this whole story is a way of him sort of realizing that he maybe should have been nicer.
And if
I-
any,
sorry,
sorry. if anything, this movie is like a solid continuation from the first movie because a lot of the unresolved issues we didn't get from the first film we're getting in this film. So like I can't imagine watching this film as a standalone without seeing the first film.
No, it really wouldn't work.
So
It wouldn't make
confusing.
sense.
But
That's one of its biggest.
the one thing I'll say about the Yondu thing, then I'll try to start letting it go. But I think it's a potential
let Yondu
problem
go.
with the. I can't. He's one of my favorite characters in the comic book
I mean,
history.
it's a
He's
very
so good. But
important issue. I was talking to someone else
Yeah.
who had huge problems with the daddy issues of this movie too.
But here's the thing: is I feel that it's a problem in the storytelling from both the first movie and the second movie, where they made Yondu too evil. They made him like too abusive, to where there are the actual problems. Like where Sam comes in, it's like,
Fair.
no, he's an abusive, fucking horrible person. It's great that he redeems himself at the end, but still, does it fully balance out? Not really. Like he tortured this kid. So if they had kind of lessened the torture a little bit,
That's fair.
like if it was only like the thing of like they always threatened to eat him, like if there's just one thing where like it was bad but not the worst ever, this wouldn't feel as extreme. But they make him sound horrible.
You know, it's funny. I'm thinking of like Star Trek Prime Directive, where we're like looking at it from our cultural lens, but
Sure,
then
yeah.
like we have to consider like this is a fucking alien
He's
race, and
Yeah.
it's like
He's
maybe
a
threatening to
Kree
eat. Yeah, maybe
who was a slave for his early life.
right.
So
And
for-
that's definitely true for him.
Yeah, in his mind, it's like I wasn't that bad at all. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
but
I didn't.
Still,
I didn't
like,
actually murder him.
I never ate him.
I didn't sell him off to slavery. I didn't give him to the guy.
He's
who
got
was
all
gonna
his
kill him.
appendages.
But remember, I mean, he saved him in the beginning. He's alive because Yondu didn't give him to
Ego, yeah.
After he gave away thousands of.
But he
kids.
didn't know.
Yeah,
He
oh,
didn't
for
know
sure.
what that was
Yeah.
going on there.
And that's again what is a big part of this movie
Yeah.
is his own contrition for his part in what happened.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I think this will help us hopefully move on to other characters. It's just a bummer that they spent so much time on that because that is like a really hard thing to reconcile when you do have like Drax learning to form kind of a familial bond with Mantis again after
Yeah.
such loss, you know, and you have Rocket coming to terms with his things. You have everyone kind of dealing with this new family member with baby Groot. Like, how do we form a family so that this little guy has a better chance than we all did? And for me, like, I think one of the most compelling stories that I was looking forward to going into this the first time was seeing the continuation of Nebula and Gamora's
Me too,
stories.
yeah.
And it just, that was so dissatisfying that all they got was one fight scene.
No,
Because
no.
I'm like, oh, some badass ladies in the Marvel universe. Like, Gamora is so competent, so much
Yeah.
more competent. And they let her do that in the fight scenes. But whenever it comes to, like, any emotional moments and stuff, it's like they shortchange her. And it's such a bummer.
Here's where I agree with you that after their fight resolution, they should have been more involved with the Battle of Ego.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I fully agree on that. But I think that fight was kick-ass and necessary.
Oh, and that it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
just
was
wanted,
a great fight.
That's
just
why,
wanted
that's
so
why I don't
much
understand the
more.
complaint on that. I'm
Oh, I
like, we
just
got
wanted-
exactly the resolution
Because
we
I
needed
wanted-
with those characters.
I wanted
right before
more,
Infinity
though.
War.
Yeah,
But you
I
know
just-
it's going to continue into Infinity War.
But I think
I
Sam
know.
wanted the same level of love and attention for their storyline that we got for Yondu's storyline.
Sure,
But
I
it's
think
only one
I
movie,
think
so-
here's the thing.
And
you-
also, Yondu's gone now.
Yeah, so
like,
they can
His
continue.
storyline had
Yeah.
to resolve here. Theirs gets to continue
and,
to the next.
and here's
one.
what I want to do, especially since like most of your issues seem to be just like how much time is spent per each kind of like individual bit.
Yeah.
We should actually break down the movie and
Sure.
kind of like do the math. Like maybe everyone did get an appropriate amount of time. It just feels different.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
But you also can't mathematize
I know.
a
That's
a
true.
storyline. It's all
Yeah.
about
I mean,
quality of.
Not according to script gurus, am I right?
but like if you look at it like just going like character to character, like who's actually getting like beats, like Peter's storyline I think is by far the weakest in the movie, and it's not because it's a bad storyline, it's because it felt lazy, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's really here's exposition dumps and on to the interesting stuff
Yeah.
with actual colors and movement and that sort of stuff. But you get Drax and Mantis, which was good, but again not super in there, and they only had one real emotional scene, which I still think is the strongest scene in the whole movie. And then so
Yeah, and like I don't like Ego's plan. Like the whole populating the planet or the world, sure, but like the whole I'm gonna also spread my goo
yeah, it was-
over every
Didn't quite
planet.
understand it. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was just a weak kind of like we have to make this relevant for Earth again.
I mean,
like-
like, for an intergalactic womanizer, I guess that makes sense.
No, I got what he did.
Yeah.
I totally got what he did. It's just kind of like when we always had to cut back to like the spreading glue and the ticking time bomb. I'm like, I didn't need that. Just
it,
kick
it
his ass.
reminded me of the scene in Force Awakens where we cut to is it Coruscant that we're looking at, or wherever the Republic is, and we see these people.
It was
that
a
we've
new
never,
planet. Yeah.
These people we've never met before coming out right before their deaths, and it's like
technically
this,
Yeah, that was
Coruscant,
I have a
but
problem
who
with that.
cares?
It's not
I am
Coruscant, but
very
it
annoyed
should have
that
been.
apparently Coruscant is blown up.
No,
it's not Coruscant.
It's not Coruscant,
It
but no one
wasn't?
gives a
I
shit.
thought
It was
was.
a.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
went.
They're talking about
it's
the
a new
core
planet.
planets, and Coruscant's supposed to be the main.
It was like
a
a senator
new-
planet or
Yeah,
something.
it was a new planet the Republic set up that you would have to go through the extra stuff to even know about, and like
yeah.
it was actually a part of scenes that got cut out because that one featured
That would
like
make more
kind of like
sense.
a black woman who was in that. She
Is
was
that Freeman Eggman or somebody else?
no somebody
Oh.
else. There was a scene with her cut out where she was talking to General Leia before she goes back to the planet, so that's why she felt very
Oh, we were
featured in that.
supposed to care a little bit.
Yeah, it was something that got on the editing room.
So
floor,
I have another
unfortunately.
complaint about that movie.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
okay.
sidetrack us.
No,
I just-
what-
Well, and
It's
maybe
relevant.
that's kind of the
good
stem
sidetrack.
of the like kind of the dissatisfaction is that because that line is so weak with the ego thing and all
Yeah.
that, it just starts to kind of permeate and really kind of just take away from
Spread.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This basically spread to these other elements that really could have used that extra bump. Maybe not necessarily equal footing, but maybe more.
But so that's kind of where I'm at, like with what Sam's saying is like, so Yondu and Rocket I think get 3 scenes of like real like love and attention. Peter I think gets like 2 or 3 ish, but then Drax gets 1, Gamora gets 1, everybody else gets like the 1 hit. So
Gamora gets 2 when they capture Nebula.
true, okay, yeah, that's true. But like where they really approach like the storyline with like the sisters and the moving on and that sort of stuff, it's really just one real attachment.
Nebula gets 2 too, actually, and that's on my list of wonderful moments ruined.
the fruit.
Yeah, the fruit.
Not the fruit.
Oh.
It's the moment
was
after
funny.
the mutiny, and James Gunn's brother asks her what she's going to do with her half.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then she goes through her entireness of her
I love
life,
that.
how much pain she experienced, why she wants to kill Gamora, and it's like I actually love her speech right there. It's a
Yeah.
great intense moment,
But-
and
I see where you're going with this.
And
I
then-
know what you're gonna say.
He
but
ruins it.
But of course he
ruined-
did, because that's his character. Like that one, if she had said that to anyone else in the world, an acceptable response would be like, "Okay, I'm sorry," but she said it to the dumbest guy in the ship.
Right.
Of course he's gonna be like, "I have no idea how to handle this. I'm gonna make jokes in an awkward situation.
Have
Walk away."
you
about
seen,
how girls just want to buy pretty things to make other girls jealous.
Well,
character
yeah, he's a
motivated.
Ravager. He's
yeah,
not.
character motivated. Like
I
if,
think-
not very
It's
woke.
still an annoying moment for
I
me.
think it didn't quite land. Like
yeah.
that was obviously the intent, but I don't think it quite worked because
worked
she
for
was
me.
giving her all.
It worked for me.
and-
I liked it.
Can I just
you've
say
seen
though,
that- oh,
would
sorry.
ship those 2 characters.
Oh, that's a
she
good one.
needs. She needs
That's
a
pretty
sweet.
good.
That's my True Detective season 3.
I hope he does. I hope he does have a little crest. That's why he felt so
Yeah,
awkward
and
and
she
couldn't
needs
respond.
like she needs like a sweet dumb simpleton.
Yeah.
You know, just to like.
Oh,
bring her
That's a good
Toss
one. I didn't
around.
think about.
Yeah.
You,
Just-
you've read One Punch Man, right?
Yes.
Like Genos. It's the way Genos goes through. Like I came through the store and I had the superpower and I had to become the strongest. And Satama's just like, all right, whatever. I'm gonna go shopping today.
God, now I'm actually thinking of April and Andy on Parks and Rec. Because that's exactly their relationship. That she's just so like badass and awesome, and he's like, "What?"
Burt Macklin.
Can they just get their own little ship and go around like beating people up and stealing things?
happens.
If
Yeah.
they are the final killing blow of Thanos, I will love Marvel forever. That'll be the thing that gets me like 5-star all their movies, even the bad ones.
If who Final Kill Thanos?
Nebula and Dumbface.
Peter
Kraglin.
Gunn.
Raglan, yeah.
Peter Gunn. James
I
Gunn.
think I'd be a little annoyed at
Sean,
that choice.
Yeah.
That's just the show. Like
I would just like
throw a whole-
Gamora and Nebula to do it together.
Yeah.
I would like them to be.
That's
able
probably why they didn't get as much in this movie. I'll wager
Yeah.
that's what the
I
third
really
one's gonna
hope so.
go
But
for.
But
I-
Marvel
And to
doesn't
get
like
to
giving ladies things to do.
And this
so.
one thing
Oh,
that
can we?
I want to talk about their fight.
Okay. I want to come back. Put a pin in that. We're coming back.
There's a lot to talk about in this movie.
There is.
Apparently,
Surprisingly.
I don't think there's a lot to talk about with their fight, but go for it because I think their fight was cool and then it was over.
but the thing that I love about their fight is it wasn't a cat fight.
True.
It's
yeah,
one
no.
thing that
a
specifically
Titan
male
brawl, for sure,
directors
yeah.
do, that they sexualize women fighting, and it was not sexualized, which
No.
I appreciate so
Yeah,
much.
no low angle shots, no cat
Yeah,
pose.
it
Yeah.
was very much a sister fight, very much a very heated.
It was two
baggage
warriors
fight,
battling.
and it's such a beautiful illustration of the when you don't actually want to kill somebody type of fight.
Another movie
where you-
reference North by Northwest.
Yes.
Oh,
right.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't really think of that. But
It's almost like James Gunn likes movies.
it's just so great at how they could have killed each other. easily.
She's carrying
many
a
moments.
huge fucking machine gun.
And she comes at her by surprise from the back in a plane.
Yeah.
And they keep not killing each other, even though there's no excuse for them to not have been able to. But it just breaks down into their relationship of they have issues, but they still love each other.
Well,
and it was reflected in such a great way.
They even almost say that initially when they're like, after the battle's over, it's like, Thanos played us against each other, and you kept beating me, and I had to keep getting like cybernetically enhanced. I could never beat you. Because Gamora didn't want to kill him. In a way, Nebula didn't want to kill her either.
No.
And
She
that
just
was-
wanted the pain in.
But
That's
that's why
such a great line where
Yeah.
she's just like, I just wanted a sister. And that's a moment for Gamora.
It's a
'cause,
great
she's
moment,
never
yeah.
seen it that way before. And she's like, oh, shit. And
I
then
just-
it like all makes sense to her.
But I would argue that they don't love each other. I'd say they want to love each other.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's that's everybody in
Yeah,
this
totally,
series,
totally.
Yeah.
But
But I
I
think that's
also
an
loved
important
it.
distinction between the two.
The first thing that they say after they're done fighting each other is just Nebula just goes, "I win!"
yeah. That's so sistery.
Like it's incredibly a sibling moment.
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Like this time I won.
Yeah.
And
And it's so
I
sad.
don't think I
'cause
ever
you
got to
see-
say that to
Gamora
my
can't
sister
let her
ever.
have it either.
Yeah.
So you can see that relationship is still playing out the same dynamics. And even when she
they-
says, I win, she's like, no, you didn't. I saved you.
It's like it's been so ingrained in their heads by this person that they can't have a relationship. And it's so nice because I feel like in that fight, they're literally just tearing down all the shit that Thanos put in their brain.
Oh, yeah.
Another abusive
they're
father.
going to be
Yeah.
able
Yeah.
to have a relationship after that fight.
Yeah, just getting that shit out and clearing a path so that they can relate to one another as individuals
The
without
moral,
the
the moral
context
of this
him.
entire movie is dads are shit until they die.
And even after they died,
I love my dad.
even after they
too.
died, they still someone was still shit.
I'm
so.
sorry.
And we have a dad here.
Oh,
Yeah, but we all know John's shitty.
That's
you
why.
don't belong in the Guardians universe, John. I'm sorry.
That's why we make so many jokes, dad jokes. We're trying to.
Trying to say you're not that bad.
Right. It's more of a I'm okay. I don't mean any harm.
I'm
sort of thing.
sorry. I'm
any-
gonna F it up no matter what because I'm a dad.
There haven't been any evil mothers yet.
No.
I want some evil moms.
Hold on.
I like One Piece.
There's gotta be. There's gotta be an
Tony
evil
Stark's
mom.
mom was kind of rude.
That's the worst thing.
Not
you
even
can do.
evil, just kind of rude.
Tangled.
That's not Marvel.
Disney.
That's yeah.
Disney
That's
has
Disney.
tons of evil
But
moms.
No, we
Marvel
said
is
Marvel.
Disney.
Oh. No, they're not. They're owned by Disney. But
There's gotta be an evil mom.
anyhow, let's go back to that pin.
Yeah.
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 Well, no, a lot of people may not know that originally Marvel had this program where 5 writers were chosen. I really wanted to be in that list, but 5 writers were chosen to work for Marvel, and they basically did rewrites and polishes and anything Marvel Studios wanted them to do. And each of the writers was allowed to dig through the back catalog and pick something that was not already on the slate to develop and write a screenplay based on. And Nicole Perlman was one of them, and she's a really big science geek, and she saw a comic book about space, and she pulled it out of the pile, this obscure comic book that wasn't really well known, and she developed it, and she wrote a screenplay, and of the 5 writers, this is the only one that moved forward. Guardians this movie exists because of Nicole Perlman, and then James Gunn came in and did his work, which is amazing because he does a good job. But what you were saying about him not necessarily having the best track record with women, it was really upsetting when the first movie came out and she was basically removed as much as possible from the story of this film. Like, they're constantly talking about how great James Gunn is. James Gunn movie, James Gunn wrote it.
And he went out of his way to discredit her involvement with the screenplays. Like, the WGA always gives preference to first writers, which is true, but, like, if he did as much as he said, they would have taken her off.
Yes.
Like,
and again, she's the one who picked the characters.
Yeah.
The reason it's about Peter and Gamora and everyone else is because Nicole's the one who chose them. This is ostensibly her. This started with her, and yet when you watch the interviews, not only is she not mentioned, but none of the writers of the comic books are ever mentioned, and that's a bit upsetting as well.
Yeah.
That's
And
my
especially,
issue with
like,
this.
Not to just throw another man on the pile, but it's like Brian Michael Bendis deserves some credit for this, and he never gets any because he's really kind of shaped the modern like Marvel communication, like the quippy back and forth. Like if you go to the comics, like if anybody has like that real like quick back and forth comedic timing, it's Brian Michael Bendis. And like he did it for Guardians, he did it for X-Men, he did it for the Avengers. Like he's great at that stuff.
It always
And
feels
he's
like
really
Marvel,
Marvel's like golden boy. Like he
Yeah.
does all their big things now. But
But it always feels like the cinematic universe is constantly trying to distance themselves from their source material. It's really odd.
it was intense.
Like I can't think of a single movie where they really reference the original writers a lot. Like it really they
Beyond
always
Stan Lee, yeah.
yeah, they're
and
beyond
Stan
Stan
Lee is
Lee.
all
They're
over the
always
place.
they're always talking about the current writer for the movie or the director for the movie or the whatever for the movie. Them actually talking about the comics that these comic book movies are based off of doesn't really happen.
Part of that is international marketing.
Yeah.
Because these movies have such an international audience. I'm working on a property right now that's based on a Dr. Seuss book, and we can't really mention Seuss in marketing when we're talking to our international. Well, it doesn't rhyme overseas.
Yeah, no, totally.
I guess our greatest example in America then is I just lost the name of it.
But like
Rin Tin Tin, not Rin Tin.
Adventures of Tintin.
Adventures of
Adventures of
Tintin.
Tintin.
Yeah, the
Like,
Steven
that just
Spielberg
didn't-
movie. And it's
Like,
like,
that
no,
was-
these are
No one cared about that in America.
yeah, these are best-selling graphic novels by Hergé.
I have the whole collection in a pristine, like in a great edition, and I love them.
But no, it's a Steven Spielberg movie, and it's, I mean, it is, but like it looks so much like the books.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. But yeah.
But no, there's even no love for like Kelly Sue DeConnick right now, who's like arguably the reason Captain Marvel's popular.
Fucking
much
love
love.
her.
Because she brought that back, and it was
Yeah.
huge and great, and she did so good with it. And now it's just like, no, it's Captain Marvel's cool, but Kelly Sue can.
Well, I mean,
Well, she's got Bitch Planet, and it's awesome.
for
Bitch Planet is fucking great.
I think part of that too is just that comic book artists and writers get no love. They don't get
They
paid.
don't.
They don't get paid what they should be getting
No.
paid. First and foremost, you cannot make a living as a comic book artist unless you're Jim Lee status.
You don't get. There's no
I'm Mike
union.
Mignola.
Yeah, Jim Lee,
You don't get any
Greg
health
Capullo,
benefits.
Like, there's a few.
There's
But
a few, but it's not like if you're a working professional, you're just like you're going to be fucking freelancing forever.
Hashtag Hero Initiative. If you ever want to support your local comic book writer and artist, donate to them.
Who is this again?
Hero Initiative.
Hero Initiative.
It is a foundation that is specifically made to support comic book artists, especially when they have health issues. Since there is no union, there's
Yeah.
no health plans.
Right.
They can very easily just fall apart because they don't have a support system.
And they have crazy deadlines
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
put out all
and
the time.
And
the
the-
rumors
the-
are everywhere that the comic book industry is going down.
oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But really quick, before we get to the end of this thing, part of the reason I was excited about having Bryan on the show is because Bryan works on shows with big team-ups like Teen Titans Go. And I wanted to get your take on this thing as a team-up thing. What do you like the most about it? What do you like the least about it? What would you change if you were able to sit in a director's chair of like a cartoon of Guardians?
Oh my God. Okay, that's a big question.
Lots of them, right?
Yes. Okay, so like I said a little earlier, is that this film specifically can't work as a standalone because it's resolving a lot of issues that get brought up in the previous film. I think I was telling a friend about this. What I really like about this movie as a team up, it feels more like the first movie is Star Wars. This movie's Star Trek. This movie's Star Trek 5. Basically, Spock has a brother. He goes to see this brother who's trying to find God, and God is like the thing. Spoiler alert.
goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
God's an alien. So this is
That's a
good version of
comparison I never would have. I never thought about that.
that's why it doesn't feel like the first film so much. Because first film, Star Wars, like a group of adventurers get together and they defeat an evil empire. This movie, a group of adventurers who they already have a prior relationship, we don't need to rehash because we already know the Star Trek crew, go on a singular adventure, and they solve that one issue, and they move on with their other adventures.
There's even a campfire scene. This is
There
way
it
too
is.
close to
Oh
Star
my
Trek.
god.
Yeah, that's why when
Mind's
people
blown
Yeah.
all over.
Damn.
that's why when people say what they like about this movie and what they didn't like about the prior or vice versa, I'm like, well, maybe you're a Star Trek fan, not a Star Wars fan, or maybe you're a Star
I'm
Wars
both,
fan, not a Star
so
Trek
have
fan.
it for both.
Yeah, I love both. I never choose. I'm like,
Why do we have to?
yeah, that's why I always say as a
It's the
kid.
weirdest battle in geekdom.
There's great Star Wars movies and there's shitty Star Wars movies. Vice versa, great Star Trek episodes, shitty Star Trek episodes. So yeah,
In
and
the
I would
time
think,
of arguing which is best, you could have just watched another one of those.
right, and you go back
Sure.
and forth. But I think the thing I would change, or I would add maybe, like, how long's the running time? Like 2:30?
Not even, it's like 2:05. I want to say.
Yeah, I could add like maybe 10 more minutes of issues with characters' time because I don't think we got enough Drax and Drac backstory and Drac and Mantis.
But he
even.
got the most. Honestly, I would say Drax got the most emotional moment
out of his
without
scenes.
a joke.
Yeah. He got the most out of his scenes that he was in, but I wanted more of that. I even wanted. People said there was too much Baby Groot, but I wanted more Groot and Rocket. I felt like it was
Yeah.
more Rocket and Yondu than
I
Rocket and
thought
Groot.
I was fine without more Groot.
There's a deleted scene, or a deleted extension of that scene with Drax and Mantis where she goes on about a speech about the way she feels when she touched him, and I'm so glad they cut it. They just let that moment play quietly, and that was it. you know?
Okay. I
Yeah,
have to
this
watch
movie
that.
had enough exposition in it. They did not need more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie could have done a little bit more showing and not telling.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't get to say is I could have really done without the exposition hallway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once was fine. It's the fact that they go back to it. That's what the problem is.
There were some really I mean, James Gunn's a really great visual director, and I feel like this movie even had more. He was allowed to be a little bit more artsy, like that. I fucking love that shot of Star-Lord in the lower corner of the screen on Ego's ship, and they just like have the whole empty space behind him while he's listening to his Walkman. It's so, and I think that the chain is still playing at that point, and all the slow-mo that they did in that sequence. Like, there's just some really beautiful shots within like what was shot largely on a green screen. I mean, it's kind of amazing how they managed to really pull a lot of this off, and it's because, I mean, he did have a really, like, I mean, despite his lack of ability to give people credit for the writing, he does a really great job with a lot. He drew those storyboards. He knew exactly what he was like. He chose the songs. It's very much his vision, and it works.
There's a sense of his visual style in there, and all of those. And the scene that stands out to me the most is that where they're hyper jumping between the planets, and their faces just get so grotesque. And I love that. That's my favorite scene in the movie because it's so. Like,
Watcher? Oh yeah, the Watchers.
Yes, I was so happy.
And they're walking away from Stanley.
Oh! If that was the last Stan Lee cameo ever, like if he died the next day, I would have been sad.
Just stuck there.
Yeah, just stuck on a planet with the Cosmo dog. That would have been amazing. That's Stan Lee. Gone forever.
Oh. But did you have more to build off what Brian asked you? I feel like we took away from you.
No, I think that was it.
Okay.
No.
Cool. Then I think we should move into quotes. Quotes.
I'll go first since I have mine in my head, not written down. Since I am such a massive Farscape fan, and the relationship between Star-Lord and Nebula, and Gamora is so Aaron and John from Farscape, where John is, for those of you who don't know the show, John is a human who's lost in space among aliens and falls in love with an alien girl, and she's a tough, badass chick of the universe, and Claudia Black is amazing, and there are so many scenes where like he like Star-Lord, he keeps making references to Earth shit all the time. There's a great scene where she's trying to learn his lingo, and there's this crazy alien lady, and she goes, "She gives me a Woody," and he's like, "Woody?" And she goes, "Yeah, like when you don't trust someone or when they're weird," and he's just like, "No, Willies. She gives you the Willies." so when they're having that discussion about romantic comedy TV shows and everything, and he's just like, "This is not like Cheers at all. This is like that dumb show that we get 0 ratings." And then she just goes, "I don't know what Cheers is." That's my favorite.
Mine, it comes from pretty early in the movie because I like it when the Guardians are together, and this movie is largely about them getting back together. But it's right when they realize that the Sovereign are chasing them. And it's kind of 3 lines together, but it has to work, or the line doesn't play off. But it's between Drax and Rocket. Like, why would they be chasing us? And he goes, "Probably because Rocket took some of their batteries." And Rocket goes, "Dude!" And then Drax looks around and is like, "Right, he didn't steal some of those. I don't know why they're after us. What a mystery this is."
I guess I'll go with one of the serious moments of the movie, just because it is such a beautiful line for a egotistical ego. And how every villain views themselves as their own hero. When Ego says, "It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head." Like, he still feels bad. He got hurt by that, but he did what was necessary. I mean, even though that's an absolutely terrible thing to do, no matter who you tell that to, they would never see it from your point of view. But from his point of view, it's a sacrifice he had to do.
Oh, it's even worse than that. It's one of those, like, "Why'd you make me hit you" scenario.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's what that is. That's why I was like, and talk about underplaying. He just delivered that, and they'd even like make the moment tense. They didn't bring down the lights. Oh, he just delivered that like it was casual.
Yeah, and then I loved how immediately with that one line, his eyes fade back to normal, and he just starts shooting. Like, not missing a beat. Like, "You've killed my mother."
Excellent use of a Zolly.
Yeah.
I love Zollies.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I really appreciated that they did. They didn't make Ego openly sinister. He's just gross.
Yeah.
Like, he is pure ego, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no humanity there, and I thought they did a really good job.
Probably one of the
with
better
that.
Marvel villains.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would almost argue the best under Loki, because every other villain is just so meh.
But that's Marvel villains.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's nothing
comics.
against
That's the
MCU.
comics
Yeah.
fault.
Unless
yeah.
we're talking TV, because Kilgrave was also pretty.
Oh yeah, Kilgrave's great. Yeah.
That was a
Kilgrave's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah, he elevated that.
Yeah.
For sure. And
You actually saw him hurt people. You didn't even see Ego hurt people in this movie. Really, he just talked about it.
But what made it so scary is just how matter of fact it was.
because
Like,
it was all about him.
It was.
Those things didn't matter. Like, and they couldn't have cast anyone better than Kurt Russell because you kind of buy into his bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
You
because
know?
you want to like
James
him.
Gunn said in one of the little featurettes that like he picked Kurt Russell because he was trying to figure out since it was starting in the 80s, who would he have cast as Peter Quill if it was a movie set in the 80s? And that's who he was
Because
like, of course.
we
Solid
bought into
choice.
Kurt Russell's bull. I mean, Overboard is such a gross movie,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I love that movie.
Oh my god!
Such a fun movie, but then you're just like,
You're
oh.
like,
Well,
wait,
we're-
Captain
back
Ron.
into quotes. Back into
Sorry.
quotes.
We talk about that weird ass rape, but you're okay with it movie.
We somehow managed to go the whole time without going to Kurt Russell Love Fest, and I'm very proud of us for that. Let's stop it before it starts.
We almost went overboard. I'll go next.
This is why people hate dads.
Yeah. I'm contributing to the problem. My quote's really quick. It's in the very beginning where basically Groot waves hi at Gamora as she's fighting the thing, and she has that moment of like, oh, hi, before getting like swiped by the thing.
It was so
and that
cute.
moment of like tender's like, oh, yeah, hey, it's a pleasant thing. I was like, this is really great. It kind of got me like into the humor of this.
Go for it.
Okay. I don't know if I have a quote per se, because I don't want to be obvious. But my favorite moment in the movie, which you haven't touched on, is when Quill's trying to use his powers for the first time with Ego's help, and it's that moment where Ego just kind of like shows him what you could do with this, and then Quill can barely form a ball, and he starts tossing the baseball back and forth. And I think there's a line earlier saying like I never got to play ball with my old man. I'm like, I wish we'd see stuff like that in like Dragon Ball. It's just like Gohan, like instead it's always like big energy blast. Like no, it's just throw some energy back and forth with the old man. I just like if I saw that in any other like anime or like superpowered thing, I'm like that's really sweet and touching. That's something you can only do with cinema.
Totally.
But, yeah.
Who hasn't gone?
Me. You kind of already said this earlier, but my favorite thing is when Nebula is screaming at Gamora, "You're the one who wanted to win, but I just wanted a sister. You were all I had."
It's a very sweet moment.
Yeah, it's a moment where we
Super
see
poignant.
the chink in Nebula's armor.
Yeah. Like, you see kind of everything she's done that's made her seem evil suddenly makes sense. And you're like, oh, man, you're really, like, you're really messed up. And hopefully you can get around.
You know, something that I will say is I wasn't, as much as I like Karen Gillan the first time around, she did way better this time. Like
Yeah.
They
she's
gave
gr-
her more to do. She
Well,
was just a
but
henchman in the first movie.
I think she's just growing into an actress
Yeah, she's very
a
young.
lot. Yeah, I mean she's still, but like Doctor Who, I don't think required a lot of her. And then the first one of these was really just like it was more like the makeup acting. She did a great job with it, but there's more like as long as she put on the suit, she could be the character. This one she actually had to bring a lot to the plate. And I think she did it like fantastic.
Yeah, all the subtle stuff going on behind the scenes, like her trying to act cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
and, like,
The
and then
hug.
the fruit. Oh,
the
the
hug
yeah,
is
yeah.
at the end is like,
Just like,
what's the,
she doesn't know
what
what
is
to
a
do.
hug?
I don't know
I've never had a hug.
Yeah, I think she was phenomenal.
Robot
in
limbs
this.
won't work.
That's everyone, right? Yeah. Right. All right. So review systems, movies that take place in space. I'll go first because I've had mine locked and loaded pretty much this whole episode, and I've already mentioned it. Last Starfighter. Mostly because I like the sense of humor in Last Starfighter. Specifically when Alex's clone is in his bed and his little brother finds it, he's like, oh my god, it's a great moment if you haven't seen the movie. But the sense of humor and like the way that like it's always kind of self-referential and it's always in this movie. It's kind of all over the place in this movie. And, like, since they borrowed from it so much, and like it's a really good companion piece to this one, where you could watch that one and this one, and it feels like you're watching a similar style of universe and whatnot. If you like this movie, you will definitely like Last Starfighter, as long as you can deal with the aged graphics, because they're a little janky, but they're okay.
Oh, I got an interesting note. I learned this through college. So, Last Starfighter uses CG animation.
Right.
One of the first films to do it. That same studio approached Lucasfilms to do that for, I think, maybe episode 5 or maybe episode 6 at the time. But they turned it down because obviously it's like, well, this looks too clean. We want, Star Wars is a little gritty. So we almost had that for maybe episode 6.
They made the right call.
Yeah.
I love Last Starfighter, but that would have looked terrible.
Serenity, because
Cool.
nobody, despite his recent Anyway, nobody does creating a family out of the people around you like Joss Whedon, and also talking about humor undercutting serious moments. I mean, that's all he does. So that movie is very much about the family unit and sort of and the grittiness of space and all of that.
I got one.
Go.
Wall-E. It's got a lot of moments that I really love, but I'm not quite sure it all adds up in the end.
Also very beautiful.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
film.
Very beautiful
pretty.
and great music.
Yeah. I like to believe it adds up just because I love it so much.
No,
I totally agree with you.
The
You're
back
spot
half,
on.
yeah, the back half
Yeah.
never quite adds up, but I love it all, and yeah.
You know, originally they were going to do that movie entirely pantomime.
I would have loved that.
But they backed away at
Because
the
when
end,
they added the little Jeff Garlin jelly beans, it always kind of derails a little bit.
I mean, it's a lot of Pixar like losing their shit at the end. Just same thing happened with Brave. They changed their mind later and then
Speaking
ruined
of
it.
jelly beans, one little bit of trivia that I think is fun is that the shirt that Star-Lord is wearing is actually supposed to be an alien candy brand because he's obsessed with candy.
Oh, that's cool.
Aw.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Looks
never
like
really
candy.
bring that into the movie.
I always
I don't remember
speaking
him ever eating candy.
speaking of
Apparently he had candy all... Yeah, Groot does, and he had candy all over in the first film.
Oh yeah, they have that like jar
Yeah.
on the ship. Speaking of which, so as you mentioned Serenity, it just I could see that design being like the
For
OG
sure,
bar.
yeah.
Yeah. So
OD bar.
I don't have a great one for this,
'Kay.
but I will go with the first Star Trek from
Abrams.
Abrams.
2009.
Because it was quote unquote a risk. When you're rebooting Star Trek, it's definitely a risk. And they won a lot of people and they lost a lot of people, which this movie kind of did with all the daddy issues.
And they had some hot Chris's.
Yeah, they had some hot Chris's. And they do undercut a lot of moments in that movie with humor, which Star Trek never really did before. So it was new and flashy. And it all involved a guy who also wanted to destroy the universe for very selfish reasons.
That works better than I think you were thinking it was going to.
Yeah.
Next.
I'll go, and it's kind of a thin connection, but I'm gonna go with Rogue One because it's about terrible dad who has to redeem himself. But you know, in Guardians he doesn't. But it's about just dealing with the legacy of the parents that are not good, but we don't know why.
I would argue he's not a terrible dad, but
Well,
that's
he's
a
not
whole
terrible
different
dad.
thing.
He's just an absent father.
Yeah, he's a kidnapped
Well-
dad.
But just that sense of what that carries on to the younger generation, having to navigate not knowing.
Sons of the Father.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that
Also,
works.
Vader was in it, and he's kind of like like he's the
But
pinnacle
I'm
of
saying,
bad
if
dads.
you're gonna have,
Yeah.
if you're gonna make an argument for a bad dad in that movie, I think you're leaning on the wrong one because there's, Vader.
Right. But
Forrest Whitaker was also kind of a bad father
Yeah.
figure. I
Yeah.
think this
I'd
is
say
what,
he is worse than the other.
yeah,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
a
We
lady,
get-
a lady's abandoned by two dads.
Yeah.
Like
Sure,
that's
sure.
horrible.
There you go.
There you go.
But like even the Vader, he's not in there as much. He's kind of tacked on
Well,
in
yeah.
there, and
We've done
There's
Rogue
so
One.
much of that's
Yeah.
tacked on. That entire movie's tacked on.
Those are fighting words.
Wait,
We're gonna keep
wait.
moving.
I'm sorry.
Nope, we're gonna keep moving.
No, we're not,
Move
we're
on
not
past.
getting into
Move
that
on
fight.
past.
We're not-
Don't start with me.
I feel you.
Did we use up all our fight time on Book of Eli?
Yeah, we did. We
Fuck.
did. Moving on.
We're gonna. Oh, we can do that. We'll do that after the podcast.
She's
That'll
got
be
it.
fun. I like Star Wars. I just don't like that movie.
Yeah, this is from that movie.
I love that movie.
I love that movie.
But Rogue
We all
One
love
is
that
God.
movie.
Rogue One is fantastic.
You guys are really, really putting yourselves in pits right now. All of you.
You're outnumbered.
I don't care.
All right.
Who hasn't gone?
I haven't gone.
All right.
So mine's gonna be a super deep cut. It's Space Trucker.
That is. Yep. That's a super deep cut.
So it's
Stephen
about,
Dorff in that.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And also the
Is
late
there
great.
a
The late.
theme song with that? Just Space Trucker.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it.
I hope it goes just like that.
I haven't seen it in like 17 years, but it stars the late great Dennis Hopper as a kind of southern trooper.
seen that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
The assassin robot at the end of that thing is a fucking beast. I love it so much. I put that in the same round as the original Judge Dredd, which also had Cy Stallone, which is also in Guardians. As in like great robots and shitty fucking movies. But like Dennis Hopper's like kind of like malcontent southern trucker with kind of a crew that he's like on the out to smuggler, which is like Yondu. He's very much like that. And he's a father figure to the Stephen Dorff character, and who's like the humanoid and tasked by a corporation to deliver a prototype super destructing weapon. And then Dennis Hopper's character chooses not to because it's going to kill people, which is basically Quill and Yondu. So, Space Trucker.
That really
Guardians.
works.
Space trucker.
It used to show up on like HBO at 1 in the morning when I was in high school, and that's when I saw it. I haven't seen it since, and I don't think I've ever even finished it. But I remember.
I don't even know if it has a DVD release.
Yeah, I don't. It's worth looking into.
Yeah.
Space Trucker, officially endorsed by After the Hype. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, that's everything, right?
Yeah.
That's everybody? Everybody's gone?
We did it.
I was half paying attention. Yeah, we've covered Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I just gotta say, I'm happy that we were able to have this discussion about it because that means it's doing something. If it's doing something that the other Marvel movies aren't doing, that we have this many like quips and nitpicks and things that really kind of bring out our.
It's a lot more than Doctor Strange had in it.
Yeah, the thing I would say
I
about
disagree, but I feel like I've never had a chance to talk Thor with you guys because, guys, I could go all day.
Well, we
how-
like Thor.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know.
so here's the thing about, I would say, the Marvel films is that at worst, the worst Marvel films are mediocre. They're never below mediocre, in my opinion. A bad film is fucking Batman v Superman
Well, I love that movie.
We can't
and
go down
Suicide
that road.
Squad.
We can't.
We're gonna fight too.
Yeah.
So
Suicide Squad's
Oh,
not
man,
great.
it's
Yeah,
just like, guys, if there's no episode next week, it's because we're all dead.
yeah, I've murdered.
Disagreeing on movies.
I've murdered everybody. But
You can't kill me. I'm already dead. I ate a donut last week.
yeah, and so like at least like a film like this can get people to talk about things. Like there's things to pull. Is like, well, that was interesting. That was not interesting. What was that about?
Well,
I don't
this-
know how that
this
fits in. Etc.
Made me think about just how the complex ideas that they're trying to do,
Right.
and maybe that
if
they're not doing it
successful
well.
or not. Yeah.
I would rather have that
Yeah, it's
than
a
just
gamble.
mediocre non-message.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So you can find us, www.athpod.com. I can say www really fast. www. And then you can follow us on Twitter, ATH_podcast. You can find us everywhere else, ATH Podcast. What else am I missing? Spotify. Listen to us, our playlist every week on Spotify.
yeah.
Subscribe.
We had a pretty good one this last
Yeah,
week.
this the one that came out last Friday. If you're listening to this on Thursday, you can still listen to it today. It was all Close Encounters of the Theme Kind themed, and I think we did pretty good. I mean, it is definitely not music from Close Encounters, but
No.
if you listen to it, they all tie in pretty well. I think.
I got Katy Perry in there. I got
Yeah.
Kesha in there.
Yeah,
You got
but-
Kanye in there.
But it works surprisingly well. And then coming out tomorrow, we have it for the movie It. So that
Super excited about that one, guys.
I wonder if we
really
can find another
excited.
Katy Perry song to work for that one.
Yeah.
I just like torturing you.
I don't have to put this one together, so don't worry about it. We're making the person who's afraid of clowns do the theme, do the playlist on clowns.
Just think of it as
At least it's not like a visual. Like if it was a
Right.
pictures I had to put together, then I would just be like, no.
Yeah. Plugs for you guys? Do you have any episodes coming out you want to plug?
Yeah, I should plug a couple of things. I always forget. So if you want to see me talk about animation, interview animation guests, friends of mine, and people who I've worked with, or and other people I've had associations with, check out the Animation Success Stories podcast. That's the ASS podcast. Yes, you heard right. Check us out on YouTube. Every week or so, we interview people and talk about their success stories in getting animation. And if you also want to, if you're a fan of One Piece, the Japanese manga and anime series, I occasionally guest star and guest host on the One Piece podcast, which comes out every week. If you're not caught up with the series, don't listen to until you read everything, all 877
Good Lord,
chapters.
there's so much One Piece
It's
out there.
the best series of all time. So, and yeah, you can check out my Twitter, Dark King Zoro, if you want to hear me rant about politics and, I don't know, black stuff.
Flexed.
Politics and black stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have an example?
Fuck Trump, fuck Ben Carson. This whole, like, them trying to remove DACA from the Dreamers. It's basically revealing exactly what this country is, because I tweeted about it a little while ago. Like, don't forget, the Trail of Tears happened here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did.
We stole this land from Mexico. Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, the fact that we would be genocidal fucks is not surprising to anybody.
Guys, that was
shouldn't
an
be.
episode of Adam Ruins Everything. I mean,
Exactly,
It
yeah.
was.
Yeah, so don't sleep on this country. We're capable of doing terrible things. That's why we have to be vigilant.
Nice. Sam, do you have anything to plug?
I'm in between personal projects right now, but I guess if you get a chance to see Despicable Me while it's still in theaters, cool. Otherwise, too, I do volunteer at an animal shelter, and we're trying to clear the shelters for kittens this month. We're doing 2-for-1 at the Found Animals in Culver City. If you go to foundanimals.org, you can find out more about microchipping and kittens and stuff, I guess. So that's that.
Cool. That works.
Kittens are cute.
I love cats.
Sure. I love cats.
Well,
What a mystery.
Yeah. Anyhow, thank you so much for everybody for coming out. It's really great having you. I'm glad we talked about this movie. And bye.
Bye.